Hey everyone, Bryan here, and I wanted to make a quick video specifically if you're an artist and you're wondering, how do I make prints or reproductions of my original paintings? This is also applies to you if you're wanting to print a picture of a photo. So these are the photos we'll be going over today. This was a pastel painting, an acrylic painting, and we'll be going over the lighting setup, just to briefly discuss and how to also edit this piece and show you some tips and tricks that I use on a daily basis that may help you process your work. So this is a great way as an artist to have different pricing tiers for your work. Originals are at a higher price point and also a different market than reproductions. So a print is usually more affordable than an original painting. So if you have a popular piece that attracts a lot of attention, a print is a great way to bridge the gap between someone who likes your work to an engaged supporter and collector. So having your work in digital form gives you ultimate control to experiment on different mediums, play with color, shadows, lighting. The best way to show you is inside of Photoshop, which we'll get into it right now. So the step number one to getting your work in digital form is to photograph it. This was the final outcome of the photos that were taken for particular clients. So this was the lighting setup. It was basic. You don't need anything as serious. You just have to pay attention to lighting and your light source. Check your shadows to make sure you're not casting any shadows above or around the artwork, and try to get as close as possible with your camera, but still keeping the piece within frame. So this is the example here. I got as close as possible to the edge of the camera frame, but everything is still in the frame. So going back, this is a piece here, the photo that was taken. Very brief. I just want to show you what we can do here by adding adjustment layers. Here you can touch different hues and play with your saturation. You can also colorize a print and play with hues and create different variables and possibilities, if you will. That was just one adjustment layer. You can play with levels and play with your darks. You can play with your highlights. That's another adjustment layer. Hue saturation. You can specifically target your cyans or your blues and bring down saturations and make a piece totally different. You can stack another adjustment layer on top of another adjustment layer and play with saturation or hue to change the colors of the particular piece to create another possibility. So I just threw a lot of things out there, but we'll go into some of them very brief so that you can have an idea. And hopefully if I do go too fast, you can just leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to create another video explaining each and every one of these things that I use that may be able to help you, as I'm looking to just share all of this information because something may help you. You can comment back, help me learn something different. It's a process that could go back and forth that I'm always willing to be a part of. So here, this is another way, another thing that I use, another tool, if you will, burn and dodge. So in Photoshop, burning and dodging, obviously if you burn something you can make it darker. If you dodge it, you're dodging mid-tone shadows or highlights. So if I want to dodge mid-tones here, what I'm going to do is I'll just create another layer on top of, I'll duplicate the layer by pressing Command or Control J, and I'm just going to brush here with a setting. Let's see. So it's a very soft brush, very large brush. But if I paint very brief, and you can see the before and after of how I just touched that shadow there. So there are many tools that you can use. This is what I mean by having ultimate control as an artist if you photograph your work by playing and with these adjustments. So here, let's just discuss the lighting setup that I had. If you look at this photo, let me change the crosshair. If you look at this photo, you can see that on the right, there's a big or open light source. This here is a warehouse door, so there's a lot of light that comes through. So I had to set up this light here on the left to even up the art. So here's a diagram that I drew up. The black line is the wall. There's the piece of art. Light source number 2 to spread even light on the left-hand side of the piece of the art. The light source is just this big light source that's coming from the right. And I set the camera right there in the middle as close as possible, keeping everything in frame. So now if we're getting to the editing, this is where it gets down to the more technical part of Photoshop. So I want to just be as quick as possible, not take up too much time to help you. But if I do breeze through anything too fast, I'll be more than happy to explain it. Just leave a comment below. So let's say, for example, this was a piece that was taken. First thing I'm deciding is this print needs to be a 16 by 16. So if I press C for the crop tool, I'm going to go to a 1:1 ratio because it is a square. And I'm going to do my best to get to the edge, as close as possible to the edge. And let's say right there, we'll come over to this side. So this side was a little bit larger. We'll just enlarge this over here. That works down there. And you know what? Right there. That's perfect. So we'll press enter. And if we press Command minus or Command 0 to kind of center everything, that works there. So now you have the crop, but then the question becomes, well, how do I get rid of, or how do I fix my edges? And this is where a pretty cool transform feature comes in for me, which is called distort. You have to unlock the background layer, just double click it, press enter, and go to edit, transform, and distort. What I really like about this tool is that you're adjusting or playing with each individual corner. So if we zoom out, you see what I'm doing here is I'm playing with the proportion of the piece, if you will. I'm sorry, the skew or the perspective. So I'm gonna zoom in. By the way, this picture was taken with an iPhone. So this is what I meant when it doesn't need to be serious with how you're taking your photos. So there, and then I'll come down and I'll bring this piece over. I know I want to get color all the way to the edge. And as I go up, you saw I got rid of my black there on the edge. That little black there, I don't mind. And then we'll come here on top. All I'm doing for this view is I'm pressing spacebar. You see how spacebar changes little, and then I click and drag on my window. That's how I'm browsing around my Photoshop panel or my Photoshop document. And I'm just going back here with the distort tool. I'm going to go down to this corner and I'm going to drag it all the way to the edge where I feel I'm happy, where I like my color. And I'm going to zoom out and press enter because I like that. If I Command Z, this is the before and after of what I did there. If I want to, I can press Command T, and if I hold Shift, it locks the ratio. In the newer versions of Photoshop, you don't have to press Shift, just drag from the corner and it'll lock the ratio. But if you want to get rid of the border, if you're really picky, see, I'm just going to drag it up, make it just a hair larger. Same on the left-hand side up here and on the bottom. Cool. And now I have my crop. This is my piece. Now we can get into color. I'm going to duplicate this layer anytime. It's suggested that anytime you're working with anything new, you do it on a different layer or on a new layer. So I just duplicated this by pressing Command J on a Mac. It'll be Control J on a PC. So if I want to now, let's go to burn and dodge that we talked about earlier. We will go to dodge because I want to brighten up this corner over here. And I'm going to go with my midtones, about 25%. And I'm going to paint just lightly over here. If I click, you see how I just brightened that little corner up. And I'm going to go around here and just any other place that I see fit. Actually, that was just the only corner that bothered me. So now what I can do is add an adjustment layer, brightness and contrast. I can make it a little more punchy, bring up brightness a bit, play with my levels. This affects my highlights, so I can, if I'm really drastic with it, you can just experiment and see where you like it. One general rule of thumb here, so I'm looking at this section right here. If I bring the knob up, you see how I kind of just overexposes that little piece. So I'm going to just take it to a happy medium. This is when I say this is when you get to experiment or play, because you have ultimate control over how your image looks. So I'm going to now, I'm pretty happy with that. If I zoom in, now I'm going to, I see that this is kind of a little bit light, so I want to drop some color or some punchy contrast into here. So what I'm going to do is just press Shift, Option, Command E. That just merges all of the layers onto one top layer. On a PC, that would be Shift, Alt, Control, E, I want to say. So if I hide all these layers, you can see this is the after, before, after, before. And now here what I'm going to do is I want to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to burn the midtones over here just to bring some color back into this corner. And you see what I did there. So this is now after, before, after, and before. So now here's the last step of the process. Now that you have your crop, everything is the way you want it, I'm going to just do a final Shift, Option, Command E just to create that top layer. And now when you create a new document by creating Command N or Control N on a PC, we'll go to inches. I had mentioned that this was going to be 16 by 16. This is the size that the client decided. You stay at 300 resolution. That is the optimal print resolution. RGB color to make sure that the color profile matches to get it as close as possible. And now I am just going to go to this layer over here and select the Move tool, Auto Select Layer, click and drag, hold over that and let go. And now if I press Command T, you see my transform control tools. It's not necessarily snapping to the corner. What I can do is I can go View, Snap to, or just turn on Snap, so that you see that it's snapping to guides or the document bounds. So now you see the little pink lines are snapping it. So if I hold Shift again to lock my proportion and I'm clicking and dragging outward, I get right there to the edge where I have my document, and this is now my ready to go print file. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. I tried to keep it as brief as possible. Once again, if there's anything that I missed or anything else that I can help you out, any other questions, I'll be more than happy to create a new video or go over this in further detail just to make sure that I did answer any questions. So I hope to see you again. I'll be looking to do more of these instructional and tutorial videos. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this video. Hit the like button if this helped you, share it with a friend if you think it can help them, and press the subscribe button so that you can stay up to date with new videos coming to this channel. All right, take care guys, I'll see you around.